How
Everybody, that's my cue. As I say, I hereby call this meeting to order. It'll be my last time to bang that thing. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Staff will take the roll call of members.
Mr. Balashandran.
Here.
Mr. Barlow.
Here.
Ms. Bayring.
Here.
Ms. Engman. Ms. Krishnakudi. Mr. Lipscomb. Mr. Marshall.
Here.
Mr. Bernier.
Here.
Mr. Best. Here. Mr. Fragola.
Here.
Mr. Frank.
Here.
Ms. Trainer.
Here.
Mr. Gracie Griffin. Mr. Heller. Ms. Stevens.
Here.
Ms. Strickland.
Here.
Mr. Thompson. Here. Mr. Beck. Ms. Hartle. Here. Ms. Hoover.
Here.
Mr. Piper. Here. Mr. Cervello. Here. Mr. Graham. Here. Mr. Hammeister. Yes. Mr. Harden. Here. Mr. Lord. Here. Mr. Wilson. Here. Mr. Abrams.
Here.
Mr. Magruder.
Here.
Ms. Robb.
Here.
Mr. Trevino. And Ms. Whitman.
Here.
Mr. Chair, give me back to you.
Okay. I would say that next I would like to recognize the recent passage of a former General Forum member that I and probably several other people at this table remember, Patton Township Supervisor George Downsborough. He served Patton Township and the Center Region Council of Governments from 2014 through 2019. He was a valued member of the Finance Committee. He served as COG Vice Chair in 2019. He built up deep roots in the community with his volunteer work for Center County United Way, and additionally served in the Center County Airport Authority. Let's now observe just a moment of silence for George. Thank you all. Okay. I now announce that an executive session was conducted by this general forum on October 23rd to consider a potential real estate purchase. Introductions. Mr. Norenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to introduce to you all Michael Tilka, who is our new planning director for the Center Region. Mike was most recently Assistant Director of Community Development for Brighton, Colorado, but has deep roots here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I'd like to welcome Mike. This is his second week on the job.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I hope every meeting starts with applause. So, as Eric mentioned, I'm coming to you out of Colorado with 8 years in a fast-growing municipality outside of Denver. Prior to that, I was in Wyoming. And then before that, I did a brief stint in Iowa and for 2 years doing campus planning and brownfield redevelopment. Both of those roles were with 2 different municipalities there. But prior to that, I actually got my start in planning on the Green Tree Borough Planning Commission right outside of Pittsburgh. And that's when I decided that planning was a career path that I should pivot to, getting out of middle office corporate finance. And so I'm really excited with all the opportunities that this region has to offer. I'm no stranger to the area. I've been coming up here for a number of years. And my sister met her husband at Penn State. So I'm excited to be up here and really, really excited to be working with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome back to Pennsylvania. Next is Zach Moore here?
No.
No.
So I'll go ahead and introduce, we're pleased to have with us tonight Julian Morales, who was recently named as Penn State's new Director of Local Government and Community Relations. Mr. Morales, would you like to say hi?
Yeah, so thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Julian Morales. Been with the university now for about 8 going on 9 years in a couple different aspects, but excited to be here and be in this role. I'm making my way through the local community and scheduling a bunch of meetings, so if I haven't got to you just yet, I'm getting there, but again, thank you so much, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. And you'll find our meetings very, very interesting. I promise you. Now, recognitions. Ms. Owens.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to highlight some recognitions that we have within our agency in regard to our programming and how our staff work really hard to support our programming aspects and our operations throughout the year. Beside me, I have Todd Roth. He's our aquatic supervisor, and next to him is Erica Mann. She is our Active Adult Center supervisor. Both of them run very successful programs and facilities and have taken advantage of alternative funding sources throughout the year. At the Active Adult Center, we've been applying for funds to help offset operations, and so we've continued that path. But just want to highlight and acknowledge the hard work that these 2 individuals have put in to writing and successfully receiving grants to support our operations. And Todd, kudos to him for running a self-sustaining pool operations, and to Erica, who has really taken off the programming aspects of our senior center. I think there's a lot of great things to come from Erica and hope to see more. So without further ado, I want to have them kind of introduce a little bit more about those grant programs.
So this year we applied for and received a grant from Step Into Swim, which is a national organization primarily focused on providing children equitable access to swim lessons. This is our first year applying for and receiving these funds. We were awarded $3,000 to provide swim lessons to financially and socially disadvantaged children in the area. The remainder of the funding helped to reduce enrollment fees for the rest of our swim lesson program. We look to continue to apply for this grant on an annual basis.
Good evening. In May of 2023, we received an award letter. We applied for a grant with the Pennsylvania Department of Aging. Our grant was in the amount of $11,654. This money is to replace necessary equipment and some of our major appliances at our center, such as our refrigerator, dishwashers, security cameras. Many of these items are at the end of their life cycle, and we need those in the center to keep things going, to run smoothly, to provide the necessary programs and the daily meal service that we provide for our valued seniors in the center region and Center County.
Thank you all very, you have more, Christie?
Nope, thank you.
No, okay, thank you all very much. And now we come to public comments. Members of the public are invited to comment on any item not already on the agenda. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing or hearing none, I move on to new agenda items. Members may request additional items of business be added to this meeting's agenda. Are there any such requests? All right, moving on to consent agenda. There are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to have any item removed from the consent agenda? Mr. Lord.
Please pull number 3.
Okay, we will, number 3 is going to be pulled for discussion after this, after we vote on the other consent items. Any other items? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion on the remaining consent items?
So moved.
So moved, I heard and is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Now I will move on to CA3, the solar power purchase agreement commitment confirmation. Mr. Lord.
Well, I'll start by rising to a point of order. The proposed motion in CA3 is out of order. It contradicts a motion that we've already voted on and passed. And staff deciding that we didn't know what we were doing and we meant to pass this other motion is, I mean, this is something if we're going to change, we need a discussion. And the proper motion is to rescind the previous one or amend it. And then we can, if we rescind it, then we can pass the next the motion on the
Would you
agenda.
be willing to make such a motion?
I'm perfectly happy with what's there.
Okay, so that you're saying that this is a motion to amend.
Well, no, I'm saying that I was happy with what was there, and I disliked the fact that staff decided we didn't know what we were doing. But if someone wants to change it of the general form, then they should make a motion to rescind or amend.
Would someone like to make a motion to rescind or amend?
Point of clarification,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. When you talk about amending, you're talking about amending the percentages that were already determined.
So you can amend a motion after the fact. As part of comes under the rescission clause in the Robert's Rules of Order. So either way is procedurally appropriate. But just passing another motion that contradicts one that we already have on the books is out of order.
Okay. So I'm going to ask again if someone would like to make such a motion.
I'll move.
Okay. Motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Well, again, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, are we amending the percentages that were arrived at before?
Yes.
And that would be 68 or 67%, January, December 2022, November 22nd to 2022 to October 23.
Yes.
69%. Now, the staff is recommended an adjustment to 75% based on perception or understanding that that was the original intent. So, and Mr. Lord has referred to this as saying, you know, in other words, the percentages shown originally, the 67, 69% were approved.
Well, actually, the amount, the megawatt hours was megawatts were what was approved,
Okay.
the 1.1.
Okay, so then I asked for clarification as to why, if we approved the megawatt hours, why are we adjusting it again?
Well, that's why he amended the motion.
Okay.
I think Pam can
Go
shed some light.
go ahead. Ms. Adams?
Yeah, if I can just clarify, the motion had the 75% and the 1.5 megawatts, so we're just looking for clarification. If it's the 75%, what happened was at the time of the motion in February is the data on the 2022 usage wasn't complete, so it said 1.1 megawatt, approximately 75%, and now we know the 2022 usage, and that's the chart that is on your agenda. So we just are looking to clarify.
Well, excuse me, but the
Yes.
percentage, the megawatts approved was 1.1. That's what I understand. And what you're asking for is an adjustment to 1.53. I'm sorry.
1.22.
Yeah, we're just wondering if the intent was 75% of the 2022 usage, that's 1.22. If you're happy with 1.1, that is fine as well. It just, the motion said both, and we just wanted a clarification. And so based on the committee comments of 75%, there's some discrepancy. And so tonight, if you want to elect, is it the 75%, which is 1.22, or if you're happy with the 1.1 megawatts, that is also fine. And again, this is not the final number. The COG committees will review it in the first quarter, but we're just trying, there's a little bit of discrepancy in the numbers, and that's what we're looking for clarification on.
Mr. Hart?
Yeah, just a question, a clarification. So if let's say we go with this tonight, and then they review it in the first quarter, we could be doing this all over again, so why are we bothering with this tonight?
I mean, wait till we get a final number?
Yeah, wait till we get a final number and then discuss it then.
Are we ever going to?
Fine. We can stick with 1.1. Again, it's just a technicality because it's what's going to show up on the contract, and so we were just trying to understand how the motion was intended to be because there's a little bit of discrepancy, but we can put it as 1.1. It's up to you. It will be discussed again before we sign any contracts. Everything will come in front of the general forum.
Okay, at what point, Pam, will this be reconsidered by the Climate Action Committee? Or
Well, it'll go to finance, perhaps facilities, Climate Action Committee, and it will start the process in January and hopefully be ready for general forum by March.
is there, now, I guess the question, I think the question that Frank is asking is if we're going to have to update this in March anyway, should we consider it now?
You don't have to, and I will keep it as 1.1 megawatt.
Ms. Brad?
Yeah, Pam, this is Gretchen Brandt here. I'm also on the SPPA management team. And Pam, I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that Greg from Green Sky, the energy consultant, was requesting these specific numbers at this time in order for him to proceed. So that, someone asked, why is this happening tonight? That was my understanding of why this is happening tonight.
It is because we're intending to give the best number that we know at this time, recognizing that all contract documents will be reviewed. And so it seemed that it was a technical kind of like what the document says, and since there was discrepancy on the motion, we were just bringing it forward so that we had the best number to proceed, because there's 12 organizations, so all these changes, you know, replicate throughout when we are 1.1 versus 1.22, but it is not a critical number. If there is a major issue and people want to table it, we will stick with the 1.1, but that is why it was brought forward, because we're trying to get our best number, not necessarily the final, but the best number.
Mr. Cervello?
I guess my question is, do you need megawatt hours or do you need percentages? If there is a contractual requirement, or if there are thresholds in terms of cost regarding megawatt hours, and it's significant, then I can understand why you would have to have a certain megawatt hour. But I'm hearing two things now. I'm also hearing that the number changes. So that megawatt hour number can change. What are we contracting for? Is, I guess, the question.
We need to have an understanding of both, but I believe it will be a percentage of the total.
But did you say that the percentage can change?
In the future, with our contract number, when we're reviewing the contracts, yes.
But what-
Ideally, no percentages will change, but if one member leaves, then people will be looking at their percentages again, right? This is still a fluid process. But right now, COG has a motion out there for 75%.
Just one more point of clarification.
Yes.
So currently there is no contract, right? There are no contracts. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
I was just going to elaborate that my understanding from the energy consultant who's helped us throughout this entire process is that it would be helpful to him, and he wanted all of the entities to basically double check. And the school board voted on this last Monday, and people had the same question. Why are we doing this again? And it's because it's part of the process to make sure that we get it right. And it still could, as Pam said, change a little bit, but he's just trying to get the most accurate numbers he can get so that we know what we're striving for. But as Pam said, if people don't want to do that tonight, that's fine. But it would be helpful for the process. That's all.
Mr. Marshall?
Read the motion again.
The motion, okay, that the general forum members authorize the draft of the SBA contract to reflect the COG's commitment of 75% of the 2022 usage, 1.22 megawatts of COG facilities electricity, as recommended by the COG Facilities and Climate Action and Sustainability Committees.
Action.
Yes.
Let's just do it and get over with it. Why are we talking forever? It's gonna.
Mr. Chair.
Well, the motion is, we have a motion on the floor. We have this motion on the floor, basically, or an amended motion.
He seconded it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions?
What then does do to what Bruce is talking about? I'm confused between the two.
What Bruce brought up was a procedural point that this is an amendment of a motion that we've already passed, and that Robert's Rules of Order demand that we do this way. But it's basically, and in terms of intent, identical to the motion that's in the agenda. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Strickland?
So Peter's motion is to amend the original motion to read approval of this item by the general forum. Okay, thank you.
Okay, given that, we have a motion on the floor and no further discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No? Motion passes. Okay. Next is a presentation by Ms. Mato on the regional refuse and recycling request proposals.
Thank you. I just want to talk very briefly about the process by which we came to this request for proposals. The goal for the entire process has been that by revising the specifications to create a contract that fits current realities and the needs of the solid waste industry as well as our residents, we release a competitive procurement document and position ourselves to provide residents with as high a level of service as possible at the best cost for our residents. The process is that the Climate Action Sustainability has been working on this for 16 months. We released and then reviewed and analyzed a resident survey. We compared contracts awarded to private haulers across Pennsylvania over the last about 3.5 years. The committee set schedules and goals, determined the priorities both for the process and for the specifications. We also hired and worked with a consulting firm, MSW Consulting. They helped us refine the process and revise the specifications to create an attractive contract to attract multiple proposers, which would result in a lower cost for our residents. They really addressed this by doing two things: lowering the risk for the haulers, because that results in the lowest cost for our residents, and addressing equity, so that we avoid residents paying for costly services utilized by only a small number of our residents or owners. In addition, the procurement documents have been reviewed by an outside legal counsel to provide binding and tight procurement documents that are aligned with Pennsylvania's laws, acts, and policies. The schedule going forward would have us releasing the RFP in January of 2024. We have a pre-proposal meeting scheduled with haulers in January of 2024. The proposals will be due by March of 2024, March 1st. We would review that, and it would go before the general forum by the end of March in 2024 for them to award the contract. And then the start of the new contract is April 1st, 2025, which gives a full year for the hauler and us to prepare for this contract and prepare our residents for any changes in it. There are a number of revisions, all of which are meant to meet our goals. So I will answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Ms. Mato? There is a motion in the agenda. Would someone who is not from either State College Borough or Half Moon Township wish to make it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Whitman.
I would just like to point out, again, in case not everybody here has heard this, you know, there are some major changes, and the one which I believe we're going to get the most conversation about is the bulk waste. Okay, that is a change of behavior. People generally are uncomfortable with changes in behavior. So I believe that it's incumbent upon all of us as elected officials to, wherever we can, to present that this change is actually going to be beneficial to customers. They may be very accustomed to setting aside a number of items every year, twice a year, to put out by the curb, but actually having the ability to call at any time, well, twice a year, and have an item picked up from your house, you have to make an arrangement, is actually a benefit to the customer. So I think that's a simple talking point, and I think what we've found, certainly in Patton Township, talking to a number of people who have expressed concern, that that's a very succinct and a very reasonable way of countering what could otherwise be a negative narrative on this change. So I would, on behalf of all the work that Shelley Motto has done, I would make that simple request of everyone here.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously, with the abstention of the two municipalities. Parks and Recreation Mobile Concession Budget Amendment, Ms. Owens.
Thank you. So as many of you recall, about back in August of 2022, we looked at the possibility of purchasing a food truck for Parks and Rec, primarily to service the pools and the regional facilities like our Oak Hall and Hess facilities like that. When we really looked at this as a staff, we looked at, full service, level of service. How can we increase the level of service? This is a major investment. It's $132,000 for a truck. You have equipment costs, routine costs, things like that. You've got extra fuel to travel back and forth. And so we took a step back and as a staff really looked at what we felt was a good fit for Parks and Rec. Typically, Parks and Rec agencies just offer your typical hot dogs, hamburgers, basic food items at your regional facilities. And so we felt that Center Region Parks and Rec doesn't necessarily belong in the food truck business. But we came up with an alternative, which is a huge cost savings of $107,000 by providing 2 mobile cart units that would be stationed at both pools. So we're actually increasing the level of service by having a mobile cart at each facility versus a food truck where it would just be stationed at one place at a time. In addition to that, we felt that the mobile carts gave us the flexibility so that we could take it to a special event or we could take it to a sports tournament. We've got Whitehall coming on board. We currently have no concessions out there, so this would help fill that gap. Currently, we have reached out to several food truck vendors for various activities, pool activities, things like that. We will continue to do that, so we certainly don't want to push away the local businesses. We want to support those local businesses as much as we can, and we'll continue to do that and continue to outreach. But to provide a 7 days a week sustaining food service for our patrons, it's just not feasible for some of these food trucks to commit to 7 days a week, a set schedule, and with limited participation or attendance for different events or whatnot. So I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of that background, but we're coming before you simply with a budget amendment request. We originally had planned for this out of our parks capital budget, and we're asking to relocate this to our self-sustaining pool aquatics budget, where Todd will take over kind of the management of the concession aspect, and I'll let him talk a little bit about what the food menu is going to look like and the types of features that come along with these carts, some of the more functional aspects of that.
Thanks again. Yeah, we're just looking to spend a lot less money and provide better service. So a more limited menu focused more on the business plan side of it, limited options, but still meet the needs in an equitable fashion for both pool facilities and meeting the needs that our pool patrons have been asking for years. The carts themselves, I believe your handout should include a summary of what the carts have that we're looking for. But yeah, we're here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions about this? Mr. Marshall.
Yeah, what's the menu for a food cart?
The basics are going to be more like hamburgers, hot dogs, prepackaged chips, soda, things like that. We will continue to sell, we've been selling soda and ice cream at our front desk, and we'll continue to do that as well.
And I saw a hand in Harris Township here.
The page 3 of your handout on the John Hess softball complex paragraph, you mentioned a portion of the 132 for engineering and construction. Do you have a better idea of how much that's going to be allocated to that project, or we'll take all of it?
Well, we certainly, anytime we free up some money, we're thinking about, what to do with that money. We unfortunately didn't get to that portion of the motion at the Finance Committee, so we tabled that for now for future discussion, but that was one option that we discussed at the authority meeting, was how to use those additional funds, that 107. One of the options that was thrown out there was to put it toward a concession restroom facility at Hess, or to put it toward a existing grant for the Whitehall Road pavilion / concession.
We're 14 years into the Hessfield discussion. Let's move on this thing. Okay. Finally.
Okay, did you have, was that a question or?
That was a closing statement.
Okay. Oh, very good. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, there's a motion here. Does anyone wish to make it? So moved. Second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Municipal comments on the 2024 COG summary budget. Mr. Frank and Mr. Norenberg.
Great. I'll start with some opening comments and then turn it over to the chair of our Finance Committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following the 2023 budget preparation cycle, improvements were implemented for this year's budget preparation for 2024. These included an updated schedule and creation of a new guideline for staff to follow that would limit the average growth of municipal shares to fund the baseline or status quo COG budget. Our goal was to deliver a budget that is both equitable and reasonable and meets the priorities established earlier this year by the General Forum. The budget guideline for this year addressed continuing the current level of services from 23 into 24, plus the COLA and merit increases per COG policy and other increases of costs for delivering the same level of services from this year into next. Staff worked hard to stay within that guideline. It was set at 8.05% using the formula that was approved by the COG Finance Committee. In addition, we were able to incorporate the cost of the 2024 portion of the General Forum approved implementation plan for the market adjustments from the recent classification and compensation study within that guideline. Recognizing that we had an updated process this year and that budgets would be tight, staff had only prepared 10 possible initiatives that were new and included in the program plan earlier this year. Those initiatives were reviewed by COG committees and then by the COG municipalities in July, and municipal feedback was shared with the full General Forum after that review. These items were then reviewed again by the COG Finance Committee during budget hearings that began in September, including ultimately making some adjustments and reductions and offsets in some cases for some of those items, and then 5 were included in the summary budget presented to the General Forum last month. Those items were listed on page 11 of the summary budget. With these added initiatives and some identified savings, the average increase in municipal shares would work out to 10.68% on average again. You're familiar with these, but I'll list them off really quickly. Those initiatives were the 4 new firefighter driver/inspector positions shared between code and fire, an AmeriCorps position that will start in August in planning, the match for PennDOT funds for the required long-range transportation plan update, a staff assistant to be shared between the Active Adult Center and Parks and Recreation Administration, and a support specialist for the Millbrook Marsh Nature Center to support the expanded facilities that will be finished soon. This will be mostly offset by other cost savings for a net increase of about $2,000 in that budget. So during the municipal review of the summary budget, we also discussed the request for a staff position and consulting support so that the CCMPO staff team can pursue federal funding through the bipartisan infrastructure law. Municipal comments from all municipalities are in the packet tonight for your review. And the Finance Committee, during its discussion about a week and a half ago, supported and recommended approval of the summary budget with the funding for the CCMPO initiative as well. There was also a request that staff take another look at examining the fund balances to identify unrestricted fund balances that could be utilized to lessen the impact on municipal shares. We've done so over the past week and a half and have identified $20,179 in unrestricted fund balance as requested that could be applied to reduce the impact of municipal shares. So with that, I'll hand things over to the chair of the Finance Committee, Mr. Frank, to offer any other comments, and then we can address any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think an acknowledgement to all of the Finance Committee members of the various municipalities, compliments. They represented their municipalities' interests very well. We had a lot of great discussions, not only for this current budget, but for future budgets, and as always, looking to do things just a little bit better. For this budget, there was the identification of the guideline of 8.05, which was a reintroduction from 2018, I think is the last year that we had one of those. Again, that is to establish a status quo budget, just to do the same things that we did this year. This is how much it potentially is going to cost next year. So from that we reviewed all the various initiatives. Clearly, based on the priorities of the COG, the fire and code initiative was identified as the #1 priority, and the Finance Committee sought to put that into the 2024 budget. The other items that came forward included the CCMPO, which there was some extra legwork on that. It's so nice, we reviewed it thrice. And I think we came to a consensus among the majority of participants that is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to put back in. The other things that we identified was parks we've continued to add to the inventory of parks and recreation, and we have not added to the staffing of parks and recreation. And it was kind of a win and lose. Christy had put forward several, she only got a couple, but we need to be aware that that's coming forward in the future as well. Other than that, the various comments from the individual municipalities were reviewed. Again, a lot of them potentially are forward-looking as opposed to applicable to this budget.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Frank. Are there any questions for Mr. Norberg or Mr. Frank? Mr. Piper.
I'd like to know how much money the budget's going up for this year over last year for like-kind services.
So
8%, 10%, so I don't know what.
So in total, actual dollars, is that?
Percent or whatever we got there, what we have.
So we were at 10.68% before the addition of the MPO item, and then I think it goes up to 11.57 with the addition, if I'm reading the spreadsheet correctly. Yes.
I'd like to just follow up on that.
Did you want a dollar figure or?
No, I just want to remind the other municipalities how many of those are getting a 10 or 11% increase in revenue. It seems like we just keep shoveling money into the council of governments here. Very expensive. I mean, there's a lot of good services being provided, but it seems like it's a proverbial black hole and you just start sucking things in as it grows. So that's all I have to say.
Other questions or comments?
I think I feel the need to rebut that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was very systematically approached, and yeah, I think actually, Eric, do you have a slide that might show?
Bring that up.
So for those who haven't seen, this came out last year in reference to the kind of unprecedented tax increase or COG budget increase that was initially proposed last year. But it's kind of telling in relation to the the cost to our members of COG versus our tax bases. So I guess I would offer this as a counter to the black hole, as it has actually been at a lesser slope than the municipal tax revenues and everything. And I think once if for my peers on finance know, when you get into the nitty-gritty dollars of the budget, COG isn't living fat. Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Marshall?
Yes, I mean, the annual increase of COG, the COG budget is always a concern, but you gotta look at the total picture. COG, over the many years that we've cooperated and been involved in that, has saved a bundle of money for all of us. And that's the big picture that we can't forget. We still have to look at annual increases, but we can't forget the amount of money that this organization has saved individual municipalities.
Well, could you, Mr. Chair,
Mr.
if I
Sorrell.
may, could you give us an example of that?
No.
Okay. I'd just like to say, on behalf of Half Moon Township, we have one thing that we use a lot, used a lot, was local planning. And that's not available to us. And yet our municipal shares are going to be what they are, 11.6%. And we've actually lost services. So I'm not seeing a correlation between this idea of being a reasonable budget increase and services being maintained at the status quo and above.
Mr. Marshall?
One of them. For years, COG has maintained the parks of the municipalities. And if we had individually had to reproduce that same maintenance, we would have been spending a lot more money than we have spent.
Well, okay, Mr. Chair.
I'm not going to argue with you.
No,
but
I
that's the way I
understand,
see
but
it.
we don't participate in the parks, and we maintain our own parks. It's more of a qualification than a quantification. But anyway, I'm just done with the comments.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just one note. Earlier in my opening comments, I mentioned the changes that were listed on page 11 of the summary budget. And I mainly spoke to the additions, but there were a couple of reductions. One reduction was approximately $63,000 in municipal support due to adjustments being made as a result of local planning services changes that were requested both by a couple of our municipalities in the level of local planning, but also to note that when for one reason or another there's a vacancy in planning, for instance, and savings then get rolled into the fund balance that gets refunded and shared back to lower the cost for next year. So we now have a new planning director. We're focused on refilling vacant positions. We have interviews scheduled, one on Wednesday and others coming up. So we are working to rebuild that, but those dollars don't disappear, they end up becoming available in the future.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Ms. Whitman?
It's a procedural one after the vote that we take here to send the budget to our respective municipalities. What happens if we don't get a unanimous vote, upvote on the budget from all 6 municipalities? I'm just curious.
So after the summary budget is adopted tonight, assuming it gets adopted, I believe the Articles of Agreement place the responsibility on all of the municipalities to fund their obligations for next year as part of their obligations under the COG Articles of Agreement. I could pull that up and read it to you, but that's my understanding of everybody's responsibility to do that after the General Forum agrees to the budget.
So basically what you're saying is that what we're going to be voting on in our municipalities is to write the check.
Or to incorporate your share into the budget for the next year, yes.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? Would anyone like to make the motion?
I call for a unit vote, Mr. Chair.
Unit vote is called for.
There would need to be, you would need a motion and a second, and then a vote, and then this would become, a unit vote would require a type 2 vote for this type of vote, and the procedures I'm giving the chair right now.
Okay. Yes.
I think the members should see the impacts of potential items that have happened since the publishing of the summary budget, and specifically those would be the addition of the CCMPO initiative and the potential use of non-restricted fund balance.
I move an approval.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded.
Who's the second?
The second was Mr. Graham.
Thank you.
Okay, to explain what's before you, the summary budget in the left column, the numbers in the left column, that was what was pushed out to municipalities for comment. Mr. Norenberg presented this evening some use of non-restricted fund balance to the tune of $20,179 as shown under regional planning, CCMPO, and parks operating. What increased it was the add back of the CCMPO initiative to achieve at the final balance of the far right there, 9.474 million.
Questions about this display?
Go to the left, read again, the far left column, to see what the blue line, oh, okay, the CCMPO, okay.
Yes.
Solid blue, okay.
Not sure.
So you would call for the vote, and then if, after the vote passes, then you would go to the unit vote.
Okay. Okay, we've got a motion, well, we have a motion and a second.
Correct.
And we've had a call for a unit vote. So this is a unit vote that does not require, it's a type 2 unit vote, and it does not require any municipality to have a quorum here, and it does not require a unanimous vote, but a 3-3 tie will mean a no. I think those are appropriate clarification, and therefore what I will now do is call a recess, so each...
You need to vote first.
Do we need to vote first on what? Oh,
On the motion that's on the table.
You call for a vote on the current motion, and then you would do the unit vote, adjourn for a unit vote if requested.
okay. Okay, I will call for a vote on the current motion on the floor. That seems strange.
This doesn't make any sense to me, Mr.
Yeah, this seems very strange to me.
This
Why
is
would,
just-
I've never seen us do that.
Well, you've never done a type 2 unit vote that I can recall, but let me
What's it?
see if I can.
Do we have a type 1 and a type 2, any other types?
We have 3 at least.
Yes.
I don't see the sense in this honestly, but if that's what we should do, is that's what they agreed on, that's what we have to do. Yes, sir.
Motion made by Mr. Marshall is page 11, the bold
Yes.
ink part of that two-line motion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'll read it. That the General Forum approves the 2024 COG budget as discussed at its November 27th, 2023 meeting and refers it to the participating municipalities for adoption by December 31st, 2023. That's the motion.
So in 2019, the COG General Forum approved special rules of order for unit votes. Typically, we use type 1 unit votes that are those required under the COG Articles of Agreement, such as for financing and things like that. For this type, which is not required for a unit vote under the Articles of Agreement, these are the procedures. It's called a type 2 unit vote. Does not require a unanimous vote, but what the chair was just reading to you was from section A there. A unit vote can be called after a floor vote has been taken, and then once the unit vote is taken, then that becomes the official vote. So after the vote on the motion regarding the budget, if there's still a desire to take the unit vote, then that would take place. We would do the procedures that you're normally used to with the phone numbers and everything like that, going into section B, C, and so on and so forth. And then the unit vote will be recorded.
Okay, maybe we should look at this next year for procedures. But I, for the sake of what we have passed, I will call for a regular vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
No.
Nay. Okay, now we will recess for a unit vote. Hey, that's our cue, folks. And now we are going to record the unit votes. Mr. Binkley.
College Township. Yes. Ferguson Township.
Motion to approve, the motion failed.
Half Moon Township.
No.
Harris Township. Yes. Patton Township.
Yes.
St. College Borough.
Yes.
Motion approved by 4-3 vote.
Mr. Chair, I call for a division.
Division.
I want to know I want people to be on record for how they voted.
Could the chairs or the municipal managers provide that to me for the minutes?
For the borough, it was 5-0. Just college.
Ferguson.
2-2.
Half Moon.
3-1 against.
It's a roll call vote.
Oh, you want a roll call vote?
I just want to be on record who voted the ayes and nays.
So who from Ferguson voted no? Corey and Jeremy. Who from Half Moon voted no?
3.
3 out of 4.
Hoover, Piper, and Cervello voted no. Arnold voted yes.
Harris.
Harris, Supervisor Graham, Wilson, and Haymeister voted yes.
Supervisors Lord and Hardin voted no.
Patton.
Unanimous yes?
And we already know State College Borough was 5-0.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Parks and Recreation Governance Special Committee update. Mr. Frank.
Well, if that last item wasn't enough fun, we'll go to the Parks and Recreation Governance Special Committee. We were formed in October 2021 by action of the General Forum to seek out the best mission and/or purpose for the authority for the future, the best governance structure to achieve that mission purpose, the best governing documents to achieve that mission purpose, and additional supporting tasks assigned by the Executive Committee. We've taken an elongated path to getting to our first item. From onset, we intended to bring each step forward back to the General Forum to make sure that we were on the right path, that we didn't get all the way to the end and discover we weren't where we were supposed to be. So towards that, we have done a lot of education through the course of the committee's work. We've also had some facilitation on how to get to the next step. All that's resulted in the documents that you see in your agenda packet. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to review all those. The penultimate piece of that is the matrix. If Scott could bring that up. In discussing the matrix, a couple of key points to understand: that every body that is on that matrix has some role in the successful execution of our parks program. The other acknowledgement is we have an authority that was formed under the Pennsylvania Municipal Authorities Act. It is a legal entity. It has a life. It has a voice. And so our working with them through our Articles of Agreement and municipal ordinance is critical to achieving this clarity that we're seeking for the authority for the future. If you walk down through the matrix, hopefully it can be understood on which item, each item that we're talking about. Again, we identified the lead role. Somebody has to be at the top of the decision chain, and this was the committee's attempt at putting a face to those for each entity or each characteristic. We built this greatly on the history and background document that was also included in your packet. Hopefully that was good nighttime reading for everyone, and it provided some of the method to the madness of how we got to this stage. I can go on and on and on, but at this point we are seeking guidance from the General Forum that they concur that we are on the right path.
Are there any comments or questions about Mr. Frank's presentation? I have one. Has the committee come to any consensus about which relevant committees the authority will be interacting with?
No, I think the only thing consistent that we heard in the committee was a desire that the Parks Capital Committee needed to be repurposed and or disbanded.
You anticipated my next question, anyway, so I don't have to ask it. Any other questions or comments on this report? Yes, Ms. Stevens.
So, in our discussions, what we were talking about is with the elimination of Parks Capital, it feels like that's another mechanism for spending control. If we do away with Parks Capital, and I realize it, but that is a concern for us, is ceding more oversight on spending. So, I don't know.
I would only offer that that's not to be decided this evening. It
Right.
would come
It's
out
a-
of that,
it's a
but
comment.
it's a great point. It's a
It's a
great
comment.
point, and I think that's why I prefaced it as repurpose is something to be discussed too, and I would hope that the committee would have long discussions about that as we move forward.
Yes, I know the committee has discussed some other options, that the roles could be rolled into finance and facilities. It's been one possibility. And, you know, those committees could represent the COG's interest in the authority. Yes, Mr. Nordenberg.
And I would just note, to kind of reinforce something the chair of the special committee noted, we're only reporting on the first stage, that some of those conclusions about the best governance structure, appropriate documents, and associated COG committee structure to support the findings are yet to come. So while that has been on the table to potentially eliminate the Parks Capital Committee, you know, that's a conclusion that has been put off because it's further into the process, and you know, there are specific responsibilities within the Articles of Agreement related to the Parks Capital Committee that includes developing the funding strategy for planning and development of regional parks, but you know, that's somewhat different from the topics that this committee has talked about so far. So I think that's a future agenda item for the special committee.
Ms. Brandt.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think this is a great example of good process because, as Mr. Norberg just stated, I mean, the vote is, you know, to endorse the matrix, which is a very specific vote. But as he said, that committee has put a lot of time and energy into these conversations to make things more transparent and functional, and it's been a really healthy process so far, thanks to all of us, including Mr. Frank. But this is such good process. But this is specifically on the matrix. There's so much more that we've spent so much time on, but it's not in the vote tonight. But it'll be coming later.
Having been to those meetings and seeing how this process is unfold, I can definitely concur with that conclusion. It's been a good process, and it's been a clarifying process for how the role of the authority will shape up. Any other questions? If not, there's a motion there, a very long one. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. 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 All opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item 13, communications procedure to outside entities regarding pending legislation. Mr. Norenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back in 2021, the COG Executive Committee had a number of conversations and worked to develop a procedure for COG staff and agencies, as well as COG committees and the Executive Committee regarding how to handle advocacy letters, correspondence with other governments, outside agencies, external entities, et cetera, and developed a procedure that has been refined and updated at least 10 times. We're on version 10 if you happen to notice the file name in your packet. The committee worked through that, and again, it was, as I said, it was updated most recently then in April 2022, and the procedures were set up to guide staff and guide committees to know what the steps would be for bringing a routine item or a news release or comments or feedback on legislation or other requests for information through a process to make sure that it gains approval. And so each time the Executive Committee in 21 and 22 updated this, it was reported on to the general forum either directly or through a matter of record. And so we've been following this matrix for some time, and a topic recently came up and the Executive Committee wanted to look more closely at this. And so we've included it in the packet. I can put it up and share the screen to show you anything about the matrix if you're interested, but we wanted to bring it back to the general forum based on the discussion in the Executive Committee about whether this procedure on external communication should be updated and changed, whether it should be something referred to the Executive Committee in 24 to take another closer look at it and address how if any changes should be implemented. So again, that's in your packet. It's item 13 in your packet.
Mr. Cervello?
Mr. Chair, the concern that I had as a member of the Executive Committee about this particular policy, and it is based on a letter, apparently a letter that was sent by the Climate Action Sustainability Committee to the state legislature or state representatives regarding pending legislation. That is, there's another word for that. It's lobbying. It's lobbying. And I believe that while governing boards, elected boards of supervisors or council members, municipal boards, can in fact go to the state and request things and weigh in on pending legislation. I do not believe that's the role of a service organization like COG. I believe that is reserved for elected representatives. And that was the main concern with what happened. So, and that was, I believe, and Lisa and Jesse, you can, Dustin, you can correct me, but I think that was the main topic of the discussion at the Executive Committee meeting and the main reason of concern.
Mr. Best.
Yeah, I do just want to comment to Mr. Cervello's point there. It was also my understanding that we were specifically to discuss that item so that call could discuss the whole thing in reference to the current procedure and policy that we have. Yeah. We were to look at this as a case item.
I just want to say that this, this is just something that I guess we can refer back to next year's Executive Committee to come up with a policy. Is that what this is asking us to do? Yeah. Let's see, Mr. Lord, then.
Well,
Mr. Lord, then Mr. Graham, then Mr. Harden, if you all wish.
To me, the layout of the matrix makes sense. but it comes down to the definition of two words, routine. And was this a routine activity to advocate on a policy that we haven't discussed as a group? And we don't regularly do this? It's not a continuing thing? So is it routine? And then the other question, of course, is urgency. And the vote on these bills are scheduled for when?
I don't know.
There's no no vote scheduled. So it wasn't, I looked it up. Okay, so it's clearly not urgent since the vote by the General Assembly is not scheduled.
My only comment was going to be that I don't think the matrix needs changed. I think we just have to follow it, and I think Bruce's point says that this wasn't routine and it wasn't urgent. It should have came before the general forum. That was the comment, and I think that's the matrix is fine. I think we just got to make sure it's followed.
And any other comments, Ms. Whitman?
I'd like to wholeheartedly agree and apologize on behalf of the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee. And I did reach out to Pam Adams, who is the staff connected, partly in addition to Shelley Motto, and got an explanation from her. It was, we had sent out a letter earlier, maybe before the matrix was set up, but she acknowledges that it was a very different issue, and that this issue is in fact a political issue, decisions that we're making on solar energy, and that we will in the future observe the matrix. And apologies for not doing it this time. So on behalf of the committee, I want to accept that responsibility and move forward. And thank you for bringing it up.
Ms. Whitman, I'm very glad to hear that statement from you, and I deeply appreciate it.
I'm not doing that, so thank you all for catching.
Any other comments on this? This is, it says in the agenda, Mr. Moore, but I think it's Mr. Morales who will present the university report.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. So I don't have a ton on my list here, but just some, I guess, reminders. Our fall semester will end December 9th. That will, with commencement being on December 16th in the Bryce Jordan Center. Commencement will be from 9 a.m. to about 7:30 p.m. Commencement also coincides with university housing closing at 4 p.m. that day, so that will be move out for a lot of students as well, so there'll be some traffic along Park Avenue and around the campus area. Also, in addition to that, just to give my colleagues at Penn State Sustainability a little shout out, them in conjunction with State College Borough will be hosting a Campus and Community Expo on December 7th from 5 to 7 p.m. To celebrate the student projects from this past semester in partnership with Pennsylvania Communities. Some of you maybe have worked with some of the students as part of that program as well. So, but that's all I have.
Thank you very much. And I've been to a couple of those expos, and they're very, very interesting, and they often tackle problems that we see in our municipalities. Okay, State College Area School District Report. Ms. Brandt.
Yes, I have two items to communicate to the general forum that I thought would be of interest to the municipalities. The first is that the school district, a week ago on Monday, last Monday, approved a new 2-year teacher preparation program to the CTC, Career Technical Center. The PDE recently added teacher preparation as an approved program of study, and this is through the Aspiring Educator Program, which is designed to introduce students to the education profession. So this has been a topic probably everybody's heard about, that there's teacher shortages nationwide, including in the center region, and this is a way to try to do something about it. So I thought that might be interesting to the municipalities. And then the second item has to do with the school district's after-school program. And I was thinking that you might be hearing something about this because there's changes that will be coming. About 8 years ago, a lawsuit was filed against the school district, and it's been pending for 8 years. And recently, it was decided that the school district would have to make its after-school program certified under the state guidelines because they did an investigation and came to the conclusion that it's actually a daycare program, which the school district does not agree with. The school district thinks that that's not an accurate characterization. It's actually an extension of the school day. And so it's still being appealed, but in the meantime, there was a deadline. And so the school district is starting that certification process now and alerted to families today, I think, that we will have the sealed program as it is until the end of the school year. And then there might be some changes coming in terms of sending it out to see who else might want to take over the program. So anyway, it's been 8 years in the making, but that will be a change to families in Skaggsy. So that is all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Brandt. Any questions for Ms. Brandt? Okay. Whitehall Road Regional Project Coordination Team Report. Mr. Frank.
Mr. Chair, the park project continues to wind down. We're into the punch list and final code and municipality inspections. We like lists. We can cross stuff off, so we're working diligently towards that, towards the goal of satisfying our grant requirements by the end of this year. No new surprises. It's just the devil's in the detail. Just like finishing your house, you can shell it out quick, but then when you go to finish it, do all the finish work, that's where you chew up a lot of time. Financially, as you'll see with the tables that are included in the agenda packet under the memorandums of record, the project continues its positive trend financially, and not seeing any issues with finalizing completion. Pending any questions, Mr. Chair.
Any questions about Whitehall Road Regional Park? Okay. Executive Director Report, Mr. Norenberg.
Thank you. We have in your packet a November activity report, which has a lot of helpful information, and I wanted to draw your attention to the page that includes recognition of all of the veterans who serve on the General Forum, many of whom are here tonight or participating remotely. So we celebrated Veterans Day a couple of weeks ago, but want to acknowledge our veterans and their service in many branches of the military. And also, while I'm at it, I'm just going to give Scott Binkley a shout out because he does a super job with this every month, and I think it's helpful information that gets shared widely. So I want to thank Scott for his work on the activity report every month. But if there are any questions on content in the activity report, please let Scott or me know. If there aren't any questions, we can move along, sir.
Okay. Any questions about that? Agency Director reports, are there any?
I think we're good for tonight.
All right. Now for the Mr. Chips moment. The terms of 9 elected officials who have participated in the COG Regional Council's General Forum and its committee will be recognized. Should I just list them off, or?
You can do them in whatever order you want, and I've got them here for.
Okay, I guess I'll go to. Does this on?
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Anthony Fragola from College Township. Thank you. You can make some comments if you wish.
So I'll just say thank you. I'm glad to serve. I've been here, I've been back. There's some new faces and so forth. So it was good to be here. It was good to serve. And also just serve the final term of Carla Stilson. So I don't want to let her be forgotten.
Okay. Nobody will forget them or you. Corey Gracie Griffin from Ferguson Township.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve. I've been a bench warmer, waiting to fill a seat until we could have this election. I've been happy to do that. I've learned a lot about local government in the last year, and I look forward to continue to participate in other ways in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From Half Moon Township, Ms. Roseanne Hoover. Ms. Hoover, do you have, I see you're online, do you have anything you wish to say?
I did not prepare any speech. I appreciate all these wonderful people that I've gotten to work with for 2 years. And I've learned a lot, thank you.
Well, if you want to come by the COG building, there's something for you. Or maybe Mr. Cervello can get it to you. Thank you. Harris Township, Mr. Bud Graham. That's okay, we're gonna wait. We'll still have time to do Netflix tonight if we want to.
Well, thank you. I'm sure this is nice. I was kind of hoping for a rocking chair, though.
Well, we're plumb out of rocking chairs.
Well, I just want to say that I've enjoyed working with this group and all the wonderful things that we have done as a COG and what we offer our citizens. It's amazing. One thing that I do want to urge our newly elected officials and newer elected and newly elected officials that I've been to several conferences and especially with Pennsylvania COG, and we are the benchmark of COGs in the state of Pennsylvania. We're the ones that everyone turns to. They don't watch our meetings, of course, so which is a good thing. But every time we go someplace, we've been there, what do you do in the Center Region? How do you do this in the Center Region? So we are the benchmark, and I urge you keep this up and keep offering the good programs to our citizens. I know they all appreciate it, so thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. And from Patton Township, Dan Trevino, who is online. If you have anything to say, Dan,
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. I'd just like to thank the voters of Patton Township for giving me the opportunity to serve them for the last 6 years. And I must say, I really respect all of my fellow colleagues that I've worked with both in Patton Township and in the COG. I'm just really impressed with everyone's integrity and commitment to public service, and also very impressed with the employees, our township employees and the COG employees as well. So it's been a real honor, and I thank everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. There's a package here waiting for you. Okay, last but not least is my own is State College Borough, and we are kind of completely turning over almost. There are 4 of us going. I will start with the one who's been there as long as myself, is Janet Engelman, who isn't, I don't see her online tonight, but I'll make sure that she gets the package. Next is, since he's here, I'll go to my colleague Peter Marshall. Peter, come up and say something for yourself. Yes.
Thank you. I have a 21-year history with COG. I was here as a manager for 17 years and this 4 years. And one of the things that really sets this region apart, besides the fact that it is really well-managed region, is a level of cooperation between the municipalities. COG is the best example, but there are other examples where municipalities cooperate with other municipalities, share costs, things like that. And I think that is a remarkable thing to be able to say about the region. And I urge the COG to continue to do what you're doing, and the municipalities to continue to cooperate with one another.
Okay, and Ms. Deanna Baring is also leaving us. Deanna?
Yes, we'll miss you all. Colleagues on the Borough Council who will be continuing and welcoming the new ones in and bring them get up to speed on the important. Thank you all.
Thank you, Deanna. And last but probably least is yours truly. And I just want to say, I did prepare something. My 8 years as a COG elected official have been really great. When you're a council member in State College Borough, your world kind of vanishes outside, 4.5 square miles of surrounding Penn State. The Center Region has a population that's about the same as that of Lawrence, Kansas, a university town that I lived in until I was 22 years old. But this region has 6 municipalities, and they're all different. But we share a lot of common needs and interests. We share the desire to have a high quality of life. This municipal system is sort of a Pennsylvania eccentricity, I think. I don't know of any place else it is, but some of the managers here might. It has some advantages, but it also produces a need for us to cooperate, to share certain services, and that we've shared very well and that we've managed to reduce the cost of. And for all of them, as Mr. Marshall pointed out earlier, it's both cheaper and saner to do them cooperatively. And the COG is the best mechanism that the Commonwealth gives us for effecting this. And as confusing as sometimes our meetings seem to be, we do it pretty well. And the regional cooperation that built this COG is vitally important to our region, and it must continue. Personally, what I found interesting was to hear about the issues in your townships. First of all, I found out that some of you are interested in preserving farmland. We don't talk about that much in the borough. We do discuss student housing a lot and high-rises quite a bit. And some of you discuss that as a little less, and some of you probably hardly at all. And I must also say that over the years I've been very appreciative of COG staff. You're very patient and professional with elected officials and very helpful in your answers. And a lot of what you do in local government affects people's day-to-day lives more than a lot of what goes on in Congress and the White House. Local government is a kind of good, noble work that few people notice in the way that few people notice all the planes that land. And I want you to know that I noticed and I was impressed. For my fellow elected officials, past and present, I enjoyed learning from you. I enjoy what we accomplished together, and I will miss it. Thank you.
Well, please join me in thanking all of these great elected officials with a warm round of applause.
Okay. What we have left here are authority, board, and committee reports. Mr. Cervello, Executive Committee.
Mr. Chair, I don't have anything to add to what's in the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Finance Committee, Mr. Trevino.
There's quite a detailed summary of our committee meeting in the agenda, so unless somebody has any questions, we should just move on.
Okay. Human Resources, Mr. Best.
Any questions? I have nothing to add.
Okay. Land Use and Infrastructure, Mr. Haymeister.
Adequately discussed in the agenda.
Climate Action and Sustainability, Ms. Whitman.
in what was written.
Okay. Let's see. And doesn't look like there's anything more for us to talk about here. Any matters of record that we should pay particular attention to?
I think most of them have either been addressed or are self-sufficient. Thank you.
Okay. And there's item 24. Does anyone wish to make a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned. Thank you all, and good evening.